good. The silence was nice. I'm Jeff Oster, and it's my privilege to be the MC today. And I'm one of the two producers, so along with Will Ackerman. You all know Will Ackerman, founder of Windham Hill. He and I were involved with producing this. And we are the producers of the project Home, where everyone is welcome. I think it's a timely message. I'd also like to welcome Deepak's over 2 million Facebook viewers today. We're broadcasting on Facebook Live, and we're glad to share this with you too. So we're here to share a new book and an album, Home, Where Everyone is Welcome. It's by Deepak Chopra, Kabir and Paul F. Jerinos. It's a collection. Home is a collection of 34 poems, 12 songs, inspired by a diverse group of immigrants like Albert Einstein, Audrey Hepburn, Yo-Yo Ma. These are all some of the immigrants that we have included in this, came to this country, made it a better place. And I think that message is really important now more than ever. I think every day it becomes more important than ever. Our country, the United States, is built on and composed by immigrants. Has been a beacon to those in search of a new life for hundreds of years. And we hope that it will be for hundreds and many more hundreds more. We also have, along with the book of poetry, we have a collection of 12 accompanying musical pieces. And they serve as a personal meditation of sorts for this music and for the essence of home. You can reflect as you read and think about this and where you feel most welcome. And whether that's a place, home is a place, or it's a state of mind. And it probably can be both. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to have a panel discussion, as you can see. And then we're going to enjoy some of the poems with some of the music from the project. And then we're going to invite some of us here today. We're asked to bring some of their own poems, their own message. So we're going to have you share that as we play along. And then lastly, Deepak will lead us in a guided meditation at the end of this. So with that, let me introduce the panelists. To my right, your left, is Deepak Chopra. Deepak doesn't need too much of an introduction, but not many of you know about his musical gifts. He has almost 50 albums on iTunes. Deepak was born in New Delhi, India, moved to the US in 1970, became a citizen in 1984. An author, lecturer, music composer, contributed to numerous albums, written over 85 books, translated into 43 languages, including numerous New York Times bestsellers. One of his songs, Do You Love Me, not by the Contours, but Do You Love Me, featuring Demi Moore, hit number 10 on Billboard, remained on the chart for 13 weeks. On Home, not only did he compose the music, but he sang, played percussion, and even the Tampur drone. Time magazine has described Dr. Chopra as one of the 100 heroes and icons of the century. Glad you're here, Deepak. Next, Kenya Audi. Kenya's a producer, songwriter, studio owner. Studied guitar in the Conservatory of Havana, Cuba. You're going to love this. I didn't know this. Was the first woman to play guitar in a rock band in Cuba. It's awesome. It's awesome. At the time, rock was frowned upon by the government. So not only that, she was a rebel rocker. Difficult to find venues or even rehearsal spaces. However, she managed to play and was an inspiration for other women to start playing guitar and other instruments in rock bands as well. The rock and roller Kenya Audi. To her right, my far right, Kabir Sigal. Kabir is a first-generation American, and his parents are both from India. He's a New York Times best-selling author of 9 books, such as Coined in Jazzocracy, and he's written several children's books with his mother, including The Wheels on the Tuk-Tuk. How do they go, round and round? Yes, they do. If they didn't, that would be a very uncomfortable ride. He's a multi-Grammy and Latin Grammy award-winning producer, and also composer and musician. Bass, play bass. Yeah.
That's right.
Kabir also works in strategy for First Data Corporation and is a U.S. Navy veteran who lives in New York City. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Kabir.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. I just wanted to thank a few folks for making this event happen. First and foremost, Kenya Adi and Oscar for opening up your home so that we could all be here today. Thank you for everything you do for our community, for the creative individuals and creative economy. It's also good to be back home. I used to live in the Bay Area, so I love coming back and being with many of you. We'd also like to thank Facebook for being a great partner on this project, and also Deepak's team of Carolyn, Felicia, and Gabrielle, who helped coordinate his schedule around the world. It's really a treat to have him here today. And to Jeff and Will for being great producers of this project, and Oscar, who's one of our 2 engineers of the album. Thanks for making this sound so good. We really appreciate it. So I only have 1 copy because they just came out. I'm traveling with this. So this is called Home, where everyone is welcome. It's a sort of interdisciplinary project. You open it up, and there's a book of original poems, and we'll be reading some today. And then there's a CD here that goes in your CD player. Those of you have it. The book and album, they come out on August 29th, which is this coming Tuesday. And so there's the book, it's the album, and then there's a third piece, which is an audiobook, which is just Deepak reading the poems, which you can get separately if you want. So there's 3 components to the project, and you'll get glimpses of each throughout. But I wanted to make sure that everyone understands the dual nature of the project. So I think that's it. I want to turn it back to Jeff, because they don't want to hear from me, I want to hear from you and Deepak.
We're going to ask some questions of the panel here. The distinguished panel, not extinguished. So Deepak, let's start with you. Can you please share an experience or 2 that you had as an immigrant that increased your empathy and compassion towards immigrants and all people in general? Some of your personal experiences that way.
I came to this country, as you heard, in 1970. That was when the Vietnam War was coming to an end, and I was a medical student in my last year, and there was a shortage of physicians in the country because all the regular medical graduates were in Vietnam. So we were recruited into service in community hospitals. And in order to get here, we had to pass an exam offered by the American Medical Association, so we were thought to be equivalent to the American graduates. There was also an English exam, I remember, which is a multiple choice English exam. I never thought you could pass English by doing a multiple choice exam, having learned Shakespeare and Chaucer and all that. I remember the first question: a heavyweight boxer is A, a type of athlete, B, a man who lifts heavy boxes, C, both of the above, D, none of the above. Well, fortunately I passed. And so here I was, my first assignment was in New Jersey. You couldn't leave India with more than $8 at that time, foreign exchange regulations. And I had an uncle in London who lent me 100. And if you know anything about Hindu mythology, 108 is a auspicious number. So I thought I should do something auspicious. I went to Paris and spent it all in one evening at the Moulin Rouge. When I got to New York, I had no money. In those days, we didn't have cell phones or anything, so I made a collect call to my hospital administrator. And they were so desperate, they sent me a helicopter. So my first experience in this country as an immigrant is being in a helicopter, looking at the Manhattan skyline and thinking I'm in Wonderland. 10 minutes later, Plainfield, New Jersey, gunshot wounds, policemen who had been stabbed and killed, and me doing my best to save their lives. Once in a while we'd get a person who'd say, I don't want a black man or a brown man to take care of me. But there was no choice. So they had to have us take care of them, and then later they were grateful that their lives were saved. I remember my first patient was a dead policeman, and I told the nurse, when I saw him, I said, he's dead. And she said, I told you we had an expiration. So, which is the first time I'd heard that word. And so I said, what do you want me to do if he's already dead? Why do you need a doctor? And she looked at me very sternly and she said, pronounce him. So I knew that in America, your soul can't leave your body till a medical deity, otherwise known as MD, says you're free to go. So, having again learned English in India, which is more like English, I asked the nurse for a torch, which is the English word for a flashlight. So I said, may I have a torch, please? And she looked at me and she told the nurse outside, he wants a torch. And she looked at me and she said, maybe he wants to do a cremation. So, this is a beginning. It was funny, it was humorous, it was challenging, and there was a lot of discrimination also. There was busing happening in Boston, there were riots in the country around racism. I thought it had gone away all these years till we have today a hate movement, and we have, right here in San Francisco, there are people demonstrating their racism and bigotry and hatred and prejudice. So we have a lot of work to do.
Thank you, sir. Kenya, can you tell us a little bit of your immigrant story? Just a little bit.
Yes. Thank you. First, I want to thank everybody for coming here. We love you. Welcome home. This is home, where everyone is welcome. Thank you, Deepak, Kabir, Paul, Jeff, everybody who participated in this project. This is a very important project at this moment. To be an immigrant, it's not easy. I came to this country in 1996. I didn't know any English at all. I thought I knew English a little bit, but when I went to the store, the lady said, paper or plastic? And I was like, what is she saying? What is she talking about? And, things like that happened. I went straight to North Carolina, where people were very segregated. So that was a very shocking experience, because I'm from Havana, and we have all kinds of people in Havana, and that race is not even a question. So it was shocking, but thankfully I'm in California now, and this is why I love California, because it's so diverse. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be in this country. I have been able to, it's about being able to do what you want to do with your life. It's not so much about the economics. Some people think Cuba is very poor. but we didn't have any opportunities in Cuba. So I'm very blessed to be here, and I'm very thankful to be in this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Kabir is the son of an Indian immigrant growing up in the South. Atlanta?
Yes, sir. Capital of the South.
Yep. What are some of your experience that informed your feelings about this project?
Well, this project is really personal, right? And it's deeply felt in my family. We were watching what was happening at the beginning of this year with the political climate and the rhetoric, and I was talking to my father. I said, what can we do? What can I do as sort of a creative person to respond to this? And he said, you don't get angry, you just create something out of this. This is a catalyst for you to create something. And, my father left India when he was 16 years old, and he always heard about the education system in America. So his mother sold her jewelry and to pay for the airfare. So he went to the New Delhi airport, and he checked in, and there was a problem that his bags were 18 pounds overweight. So he went to the bathroom, his first act of being very enterprising, and he put on 18 pounds of clothes in New Delhi, and he got on the airplane, and he went to Birmingham, United Kingdom. The plane stopped in Khartoum, Sudan, and there it was extremely hot, probably also 118 degrees, and he got off and he was sweating profusely, and thankfully the flight attendant said he could disembark and disrobe. So that's what he did, and he ended up for 3 years, I think, in Birmingham, the United Kingdom, working as a machinist in a Goodyear tire factory. And he was still trying to collect more money to go to education in America. And he saw the next department over, they were celebrating something. Oh, what are they celebrating? He went to the supervisor. What are you guys celebrating? So that department won the Good Housekeeping Award. They're the most clean department in the entire factory. So he organized the entire department to clean up after work, and they won in 65, something like that. They won the Good Housekeeping Award in the Goodyear Tire Factory. And if you go to my dad's office, and I'll explain about him in a second, there's only one picture, which is him with his crew in the Goodyear Tire Factory, Best Housekeeping Award. He then comes to America, and he applies to university, and he's a English speaker, but that's not his first language. He gets a list of universities that he's been accepted to, and the first one on the list is Auburn University, right? Auburn University. So he applies to Auburn, not realizing that the list is in alphabetical order, and he goes to Auburn University. Everyone who knows the best university in Alabama is the University of Alabama. I've told that many times. No, so he goes to Auburn University. He shows up as a brown man in the segregated South, and he ended up working at an engineering company, becoming a civil engineer, worked his way up, became the chairman CEO of the company, turned it into the second largest engineering company in the world, and then became the Secretary of essentially of Commerce for the state of Georgia. So he really is the embodiment, I think, of the American dream. And this project is personal because it's about, I've written a poem about my father, Deepak's written a poem about his father, Paul has written a poem about his father. So we're trying to take this idea of immigration and tell our personal stories through it because it's so important to us.
Awesome. Deepak, as some of you know, I can be somewhat vocal in today's political environment, at least on Facebook and a few other places, and I just can't help myself. And this question here is actually pretty good. I find myself getting angry when I think and speak about our current political climate and situation. What's the best way for me to handle and process these strong emotions? I'd love this answer.
Before you react to the anger, observe your reaction to react. That's all. Put the pause button, observe your anger, and you'll see it goes away. The highest intelligence is to observe yourself without judging yourself. Or crack a joke. I do that with Mr. Trump all the time.
Let me jump in. We have a lot of creative folks here. I heard you say the other day that creativity is the best manifestation of best use of your imagination, and stress is the worst use of your imagination. So explain that.
Well, both creativity and stress or fear exist in imagination. There's no stress right now, unless you think about it. So awareness is independent of both the good and the bad. The mind is conditioned, of course, to respond with fear when you are threatened physically, or self-esteem, or even your creativity. So yes, when you are feeling fear, the first thing is to be aware that there's no fear in this moment, right? If I ask you right now a question, please say yes to the question. Will you do that? Yes. Are you aware? Yes. A little more enthusiastic. Okay. So now let me ask you the same question, but this time don't answer it till I raise my hand, and then say yes with the same enthusiasm. Are you aware? Yes. So are you aware is a thought. The answer yes is a thought. In between is awareness, which is free of thought. It's the presence in which everything happens, experience happens. This experience happens in the presence of awareness. Awareness is not in time, because it was the same awareness when you were a baby or a child, different body, different mind, different thoughts, different fears, different anxieties, different imagination, but the same presence. So awareness, presence, spirit, they're all the same thing. But this time I'm going to ask you the same question, but don't answer it at all. Just slip into that which is listening to me right now. So are you aware? That presence is who we really are. And it's timeless, and it's the source of all creativity. Did I answer your question?
I'm still in that presence. I'm still there.
That was a present. Kenya, tell us how you and Oscar met.
I met Oscar here in the Bay Area, even though we were both from this same place, Havana. We had common friends, never met. I've been to concerts in Havana where Oscar was doing the sound, but never met. So I guess it was meant to be. But when we met the first time, somebody introduced us because we were Cuban. You had to meet. The second time, another person, we were in the same place, came and introduced us because we were Cuban. You two are Cubans. You had to meet. And that happened a third time. And that we started talking, and he asked me, where are you from? And I said, from Luyano. Luyano is not a very good neighborhood in Cuba. And I asked him, where are you from? He said, I'm from Vedado. It's like a really good neighborhood. I'm like, okay, whatever. No, but we really connected. We lived through the same experiences in Cuba, and we both have the same passion. We love people, we love music, we love family, and that's how we've been together for 15 years. Okay.
Let's go back to Deepak. Thanks for sharing your story, Kenya. Why did you want to choose poetry? Why did you go with poetry, or lead us into using poetry for this project?
I grew up with poetry. I mentioned Shakespeare and Chaucer. Those were European influences. W.B. Yeats, T.S. Eliot, many. Alfred Lord Tennyson. But I also grew up with Indian poetry, Rabindranath Tagore, and his passion for expressing spiritual truth through poetry. So, as T.S. Eliot said, poetry is a raid on the inarticulate. Science is the language of the intellect, but poetry is the language of the heart and the soul, as is music. So I've always been a student of poetry. I've written other poetry books. And I think this is the best way to express ourselves right now, through music and poetry. Artists are troublemakers, and they are also rebels. And whenever you have demagogues in the world, they're afraid of artists. They're not afraid of scientists. They're not afraid of anybody except artists. Because scientists, they can employ and tell them to do their bidding. The artists have a soul of a gypsy. They're not going to be easily bought over because they speak the language of the soul. They're the social conscience of a society and of a nation.
That's what spoke to me about this project. You know, I'm a trumpet player, and it's hard to talk when you play the trumpet.
Hey, Jeff, yeah, go ahead if you want.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about your family history too.
Yeah.
Let me get a chance.
Okay, and you know, as you know, for me, I was trying to find, and Kabir and I, for the last couple of years, actually, have been talking, or whenever the inauguration or the pre-inauguration was, or whatever, we've been talking about how can we create something that would actually speak positively and make a difference, and so for me, I found that this has been incredibly important and fulfilling to be able to redirect my statements about this in a way that I feel is it's just as impactful, if not more so, by speaking from love and speaking from inclusion as opposed to you idiot, you know. So it's good. It's added a lot for my heart, and yes, yeah. My family is from Russia, both sides actually, and my grandfather on my father's side, they landed in Providence, Rhode Island, and my grandfather was a car salesman. But before that, when they got into the United States, it was the Great Depression, and they would sell apples on the street for 10 cents and 15 cents just to sort of continue to eat, you know. And I used to hear this story about my grandfather who spoke fluent Russian because they came from there. And he would sell cars, and there were a lot of people from Russia in Rhode Island where he was, in Providence. And so he would tell this story of how they would, he'd be selling these people a car and speak to them only in English. And he knew to speak Russian, but he would speak to them in English. And then they would say something to each other in Russian, like, there's a dent on the side of the door. So he would just keep going, and then he would say in English, oh, and we take out all dents for free. And he'd just sort of throw it in there, because he didn't let them know that he could actually hear them speaking in the language that they spoke. So it was actually pretty cool, you know. And there were moments like that, and then with my father, that it's an American story, right? And we all have them, and it's great to be here.
We want to invite you to ask questions of Deepak too. And while you're thinking of them, I just want to give a shout out to Andrea for helping us with the video. So everyone, give her a big round of applause for helping.
Andrea Boston.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Chopra on the project, on creativity? You can keep thinking of them. We can keep going. Think of some if you want. Now's time.
Sure.
Can you tell us about what is home? Tell us about what your concept of home is.
Home is where you can be natural, when you can express yourself with freedom, where you can expose your vulnerability. So it's both the environment that is conducive to that, but it's also a state of being, because if you're comfortable with your innermost being, then you can be at home anywhere, because wherever you go, there you are. That's what we want America to be for everyone.
Good question. I know in the current political environment, just in the world we're living in right now, it's a lot is can be viewed as negative, and I'm curious if you can say something on the reality of the purging that's kind of happening. This stuff is below the surface, and it's being really brought out in ways that are sometimes very ugly.
So let me just repeat the question for the Facebook crowd. So
Yeah.
the question is, there's a lot of like stuff, sub rosa, hate, bigotry that's coming up and spewing out. So what do we do about that? Is that a good paraphrase?
More of how is that really, even though it's painful and ugly many times, it's really bringing it out for a transformation. So I'm just wondering, if you can share anything of just perspective of the transformative power of the
Transformative
Well,
power.
in systems thinking, there's a phrase that's used. It's called phase transition. Happens in biological systems. Not many evolutionary biologists will agree with some of the things I say, because I always phrase them in terms of consciousness. But I think the jump from one species to another is a phase transition. Primates, monkeys, chimpanzees have almost 99% DNA as we have. Actually, bananas have 65% of the same genes that you have. Fruit flies have 80% of 75% of the same genes that we have. And yet, these are completely different species. I like to think of them as species of consciousness. So Homo sapiens, our species right now, is about not that old, like 30,000 years at the most. Up until 20,000 years ago, if you talk to anthropologists who have a deep understanding of evolution and human history, there were about 8 different types of humans. But all the same family, just like a tiger and a cheetah and a lion and whatever cat, your house cat. They're all the same family, but they're different species. They don't mate with other than their own specific species. So we are told that there were about 20,000 years ago, there was Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalis, Homo floresiensis, Homo sapiens, which by the way means the wise ones, a name we gave to ourselves. And about that time, the language of humans was simply mating calls and danger calls. Till one species, us, and by the way, the leader of the pack could never get more than 100 people to follow them. And that's true of all mammals right now also. But one species, us, we developed a language for storytelling. And the more evocative the story was, the more it spoke to emotions, the more it created a vision for what things could be, the more powerful the leader became, and that led to the phase transition, the dominance of Homo sapiens. But I feel this is another phase transition. And when there is phase transition, there's a lot of turbulence. Like when water becomes steam, that's a phase transition. There's a lot of turbulence. And there's a lot of cleansing. There's a lot of purging, as you said the word. So I'd like to think that that's what it is. That our collective consciousness is taking the next leap from human to meta-human. From Homo sapiens to sapien sapiens. Other than the fact that I also feel that Mr. Trump needs a brain scan and MRI to look at the inflammation in the brain.
Yes, sir.
I'm just going off that. My name's Caroline. I have a son who's just turned 6, but he's high functional autism. And what's interesting is there's a lot of, there's more these days. And he's 6 years children. Okay, sorry. My name's Caroline. I have a son who's about, he just turned 6 and he's high functioning autism. But it's interesting is that he does this math savant skill. He can calculate ratios of 48 up to about 10,000 now. And it started like last year. Now I'm wondering, is that a phase transition of, humans trying to work out the gene of intelligence? But it's compromised because there's the autism. But I think he sees the number, right? I mean, I know you've seen and heard of.
Actually, we're in the midst of a study looking at children like your son. So I'd love to connect with you later. Not only math geniuses, but musical geniuses, memory geniuses, on and on. And we're trying to figure out why they're, where does that genius lie, because at the same time there are other skills that they're compromised with. My personal opinion is that the normal human brain is a conditioned human brain. We're all hypnotized into social conditioning, and that's what we think is reality. So we all see through the same lens of perception. Autism savants, savant means genius, saint, actually. They have access to what I feel is non-local reality, which is beyond space and time. In many Eastern traditions, that's called the Akashic field, the Akashic record, which is the field of potential that has the immeasurable possibility of all that existed, all that will exist, all that exists right now. And these kids are tapped into it. So I'll be in touch with you about this through Kabir, because we're actually doing a study right this moment at the University of California in San Diego with some of the top-notch neuroscientists. The key is to how to take that gift and then integrate it with this world as well. Yeah.
Thanks for your question.
Thank you. I'm Deborah Wilder. My favorite line in the book is, "It is not where you're from, but what you believe that matters." And I'm just thinking about the contrast that we're looking at between the beliefs of the high contrast of beliefs that we're witnessing in our country. And wondering if you could speak about what is the influence to move that consciousness based in those beliefs?
Nothing short of a critical mass of people who are moving into higher consciousness. You can't fight darkness with darkness, but you can shine the light. And I think unless we collectively, through media, through music, through poetry, through meditation, through social sacred activism, through educational facilities, and through our collective service and spiritual practice and vision come together, it's not going to happen, or it'll happen, but it might take its time. Also, as you know, there is a shadow self to every human being, that no matter who you are, you have a shadow. It's that part of yourself that you're embarrassed by, and you don't want other people to find out. But the shadow says, "You're ignoring me, I'm going to embarrass you." And so in a way, it's great that the collective shadow is out there. We see the collective shadow right this moment as what we're witnessing: racism, bigotry, hatred, prejudice, and fear. Fear brings out the shadow. And it's great because, look, wherever there's light, there's a shadow. If you're standing in the darkness, there's no shadow. So we're all standing in the light right now, and we can see the shadow, and it's ours.
Thanks for your question. I think we can probably demonstrate our attempt to shine some light by sharing some of the music on the project. Jeff, why don't you?
Yeah, but before we move on, I do want to acknowledge Oscar. He's one of the two engineers, along with Paul Adjurinos, on the project. And Oscar was born in Havana, Cuba. Played acoustic guitar since he was 6 years old. Began his formal music training at 9. Precocious young lad, weren't you? He's also trained on drums and piano and holds an electronics and acoustics degree from a technical school in Havana. He's won a Latin Grammy and has had several nominations as well. Thank you for your excellence, Oscar. there is music on this album as well as the poetry. And there's, what we'd like to do is play a few clips from 3 of the songs. Tell you a little bit about them. The album opens with a title track called Home. And the very first thing you'll hear is Deepak singing Home, followed closely by the amazing and wonderful Geeta Novotny, her wordless sort of swirl of vocals. It's beautiful. Deepak weaves in and out of the opening and sung and whispered and spoken words from the poem, and it's like a tapestry, you know, and grows. Kabir sings and plays on this one. So let's listen.
Let me also say this
Say
song is inspired by my father, actually. So the way you'll see how this is done, but we just took a few elements of the poems and dropped them in, kind of as sutras. So it's not really a spoken word. You're not going to hear the full poem. It's just a little bit of things here and there. And when my dad heard it for the first time, it was awesome what you guys put together. Thank you.
Yes. So this is Home. So that was a bit of Home. You'll notice that Deepak's vocals are you have to really strain to hear them in some places, and that's intentional. It's actually it's a way to sort of draw you in and focus a little bit and try to bring it out. And certain words will jump out, certain words won't, and that might mean something. So the next song we're going to play a bit of called Queen, and this is inspired by the great Latin artist Celia Cruz. Now we get to enjoy Deepak's singing as well on this one, and you're also going to be able to listen to great singing, fantastic singing.
Great timbre to your voice.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And that's along with Marie Nobre. Some of you know Marie. She's singing along as well. We also have Tembo Corneille playing, who actually played with Celia.
I want to just jump in on that because we didn't just randomly and indiscriminately, and thanks to you and Will, we tried to focus the guest artists. So they had, which guest artist should we choose to be on which song? And so Tembo Corneille actually played with Celia Cruz many years ago. So this is a perfect, opportunity for him to play on this track. Mary Nobre actually met Celia Cruz many years ago. Kate Dillingham is a great cello player who is on the track and survived by Yo-Yo Ma. So there was a lot of thought that went into just, let's pick the right person who can feel connected to this story and this song. So, and thanks for leading us on that, Jeff and Will. We didn't know a lot of these people, so thanks for introducing us.
I was happy to also to play on this one as well a little bit. The flugelhorn right here. This one. So this is Queen. Leslie, kind of in the middle actually, because there's more to go behind some poems. But this is a opening of a song called Survivor. This is a tribute to one of the folks that helped with 9/11, risked their lives, William Jimeno. Features the bass of the amazing Juan Herrera Garcia and vocals from the wonderful Amaryllis Santiago. William Jimeno was from Colombia, one of the 9/11 first responders, and he survived the attack.
Yeah, and again, I would also say that he's from Colombia, as you mentioned. He was, for me, this was very personal. He was a U.S. Navy veteran, and I was deployed last year to the Middle East. I'm a Navy reservist. I got deployed last year, and a lot of the folks that I was serving with, not just where I was stationed, but around the world, they're fighting for our freedom, and they're not even our citizens, right? People are joining the military to gain citizenship. And this story, William Jimeno, really inspired me because he ran into the jaws of destruction, not away from it. And I live in New York, and I work down near Ground Zero every day. And again, we try to pick some people who are connected to this story. Juan Garcia is actually from Colombia, and so is Amaryllis Santiago. She has a, her ethnicity. She's Puerto Rican, but she had a story about her being in New York around that time as well. So again, trying to be thoughtful about who we invited and how to feature them. But this one was very personal for me.
Survivor.
Tragedy begets resilience. Tragedy begets
So there are 12 of these. Those are 3 samples, and what we're going to do now, we're going to have Deepak read some of the full poems over some of the instrumental versions, different versions of this, songs from the album. And we have some musicians with us today to help the home bass band. And on guitar, we have Todd Boston, the fabulous producer and songwriter and composer and performer. And next to him is Aryan Kapp,
one of the world's foremost bass artists. And I'll be adding a little horn. And so we're going to start now with the first song is going to be called Infinity. Now these are going to be instrumental versions. On the album, it'll sound a lot different. Deepak's voice is like an instrument, as you heard in some of the first songs, and so there's a lot. You're not going to hear the whole poem on the album. You're going to hear sort of moments of it. But now we're going to have Deepak read. And the first one is the song's called Infinity, and it's inspired by Albert Einstein.
I just want to create the context for this poem. As you know, that Einstein brought us the awareness that matter and energy and space and time are all the same thing. That there's a fundamental reality where everything is inseparable, everything is connected, and it's a holy vision that he brought to us. But like any holy vision, if you come from a place of fear, you can turn it a dream into a disaster, a dream into a nightmare. That's what this poem is about.
And on the album, it features Lynn U. Evers on piano and Kevin Raheny Fortune on the iwi, the electronic wind instruments. With that, Infinity.
Space-time asked matter to move. Matter asked space-time to curve. Gravity asked bodies to fall. Black holes demanded stars to vanish. Is the moon there when no one is looking? Does the universe have many histories? Infinity asked universe to expand. Cosmos asked consciousness to reflect. Mind asked matter to dream. Time demanded future to accelerate. Will mathematical abstractions obscure doom? Is it too late for Einstein's nightmares? Scientists asked atoms to react. President asked planes to fly. Nuclear asked bombs to explode. Waste demands morality to explain. Teleport me now to another dimension, away from this junkyard of infinity.
Our next song is called Candle, inspired by Khalil Gibran, featuring Mehmet Ali Sanliko on oud, Steve Gorn on clarinet, and Kevin Braheny Fortune again on the iwi. So this one's Candle.
In a way, addresses your question earlier, the dark night of the soul before the light comes. Tortured soul spoke to angels, sparked fire of passion, longings, ecstasy, suffering, craving, pain, death that gateway to life, love, letting go, dreams, bitter-sweet memories, wisps of experience, threads of desire, spaces of togetherness, winds of heaven, rebel, hippie, lover, smiles and tears, the agony and ecstasy, love and addiction, voice of conscience, life extinguished, delicate soul, a brief candle, dark lit corridors of time, now here, now gone. The fragrance lingers.
The last song that we'll have a poem with will be a beautiful poem and song called Father. And this is inspired by Krishnan Chopra, Deepak's father. And we'll hear the lovely clarinet of Sonny Kang and the flute of Ron Korb. A lot of you know Ron, he's on this as well. So this poem is called Father. Tell us about Dad, Deepak.
So my father was a cardiologist. He was very well known. He was first in the British Army, then he became a fellow of the Royal College of Physicians in England. He was cardiologist and doctor to Lord Mountbatten and later to the Queen of England, who's still alive. And when he came back to India, on the weekends he would see patients free of charge. He was very well known. People came from all over the country to see him. And my mother would cook food for the patients. And when the patients left, my parents would make sure that they had enough money for their train fare or their bus fare. I remember when we left this particular place where he saw thousands of patients, there were 20,000 people at the railroad station to see us off because of his and my mother's humanity more than even his physician skills.
All right, this is his father.
Awareness is existence. You have existed in me. From when I first became aware and now. If awareness is life, then you have been my life. Since I incarnated into experience and now. From the stories you told to the magnificent hero you were, I am because you were and are. We exist in the awareness where I is thou, thou is me, in every everlasting now.
Now, Kabir will read the poem called Home over an instrumental version of it.
So I will read this title track, our title poem inspired by my father, and then we're going to, after this, we'll invite some of our guest poets to share their poems as well. So let's do it. Home inspired by Kabir Seville. Blood of Ganges flow through these swollen veins, now dammed shut by the British Raj. The Raj prevails, Sabji, yet the trains still don't run on time. They groan to a halt. A million dreams dead, an ancient land caged like tigers and songbirds. No courtyards or graveyards for elegies unwritten. No, but pujas of cremation alongside the stymied, swirling Ganges. Go west, young man. Sweep. Failure quizzes, tests, and exams. Sweep. But sell your rings, strings, and chains. Sweep. Go west, young man, to riches. Free every pigeon as eagles of possibilities take flight. Sweep those factory floors, $10 no more. Board this plane, sail that ship, double your layers. Avoid every fee. New Delhi to New York. Agra to Auburn. Faridabad to Montgomery. Birmingham to Birmingham. Where the greyhounds bar their mediocrity and misery. Where Jim Crow's noose hangs his history. Black, white, and those of color. Sweet. Go west, young man, to glory, where a new life begins unannounced. Firm collar, press shirt, show me $1. Where the Mississippi monsoons lift all boats, and the grass is as sweet as chai. Go west, young man, to thunder and bliss. Unzip your dreams in this lush land. Dream your dreams with supple minds. Want your dreams with Hawkeye. Measure your dreams with an engineer's scale. Build your dreams with crush drop on concrete. Hold tight on political chutes and corporate ladders. Soar, soar, soar. Like Arjuna's chariot. Maharaja of Marietta. Guruji of Georgia. Go west, young man, to your new home. An Indian's Thanksgiving for America. Where neighbors become cousins. Friends become in-laws. And family is rain on a barren day. I love you, Dad. Thank you, thank you. So now we're going to invite some of our friends, before we end with meditation with Mr. Chopra, Dr. Chopra, we're going to invite some of our friends to come up and share some poetry with us. So why don't we cue the music. The first, you don't know the order, so I'm going to surprise you by who I pick. So the first is going to be Nanette McGinnis. Nanette, why don't you come on up? You can take my microphone. You can even stand if you like. Nanette is a great creative mind, and go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for doing this. This poem is called Immigrant Song, and it's in the shape of the Statue of Liberty. It's a concrete poem. I don't know if you can see that. She stands, torch held high, rising from the New York harbor. She stands, a symbol of all who come to the shores of this new land. Their hopes in their outstretched hands, much as her torch reaches high. We stand. Immigrants nearly all at some point or another. Does it really matter when we arrived or where we once were? We come for a safer life, for our children, for our future, for a better world. We work to make our new land a better place. We come, we build, we love, we stay.
join us. And after this, we'll have Ron and San Miguel.
First, we were afraid, we were terrified, thought our world would never be the same, and oh, we cried. But then we saw all this injustice, thinking this is all so wrong, and we grew strong, and we learned to move on. And so we're here, to take our place. Come on, let's march right out the door, get ready for the race. We just cannot lose our faith. This is home for you and me. We dream and build together. This is the land of the free. We dream and build together. This is the land of the free.
Beautiful, Monica. Thank you. Ron San will be next, and then Albert Greenberg, once you start making your way up. And after that, we'll have Helen Greenberg to come together. Ron, please.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. This poem is called Let Your Light Shine. So much talk about illegal immigrants. Undocumented people of color are singled out, easily identified by skin pigmentation. So much for the melting pot. My grandparents were born in Mexico. My people did not cross the border. The border crossed us. Try as they did to shield us from racism, my parents could not protect us from the vile ugliness of hatred and bigotry. The dark skin within which I am comfortable seems to forever be a threat to some whose lighter skin color pales before the brilliant light of a heart of gold and a mind of one's own.
Thanks so much. Helen Greenberg will join us.
Hi, thanks Kabir for inviting us. It's an honor to be with all of you. Thank you. This poem is called Hymn, H-Y-M-N. The Mennonite stories I grew up with. Come, O thou traveler unknown. The Mennonite stories I grew up with. Henry Brunk, my pacifist great-grandfather, refusing to take up arms, walked backwards in the snow to West Virginia to escape Confederate spies. Come, O thou traveler unknown, are like the hymns I know by heart. My great-grandmother Susanna fled the south toward Hagerstown, but the bridge at Harper's Ferry was burning. So she plunged her spring wagon into the Shenandoah River, her baby in her arms, whom still I hold but cannot see. My great-great-grandfather Tennessee John was called King of the Amish because of the regal way he rode his horse. Even today, a universal wave from their plain coats, shaped note singing, and white foreheads that only farmers have, I call up the stanzas of their lives, enfolding me as I fall asleep at church on Sunday evenings, my head on my mother's lap. This is kind of an intro to Albert's poem. I grew up hearing those stories and many more, and they gave me a profound sense of belonging and of an identity. And years later, I moved to Oakland and started working with immigrant kids and saw that they didn't know their stories and they were lost. And I realized I wanted to help them hear those stories. So we did a project, and this next story you're going to hear, Albert will tell you a little more about, but it comes from a project we did with kids.
We created an aerial dance work called Heart of America, Stories from the New Ellis Island. And in Oakland, the kids are from Guatemala, Yemen, Vietnam, East Texas. And this is one. The stories are like pearls. And our idea of immigration is we fell in love with these kids. And the revolution is we want you to fall in love with them too. So this is a child from, well, you'll hear it, La Migra, Sam. My mom was born in Guatemala. When she came here, she came in a truck. She passed through Tijuana. There were a lot of men called La Migra. La Migra came to arrest my mom, so she went to jail. She said she was from Mexico. Then La Migra let my mom out of jail. They sent my mom back to Tijuana. Those two men came and took my mom in the yellow desert with no water, no trees. It was just filled with hot, hot sand.
Thank you, Albert. We'll get two more. We'll have Matt Levine next. Is Kathy here? Where's Kathy? Kathy, you're right after Matt, and then we'll end with Miss Kenya. Matt, please.
Hello, everyone. It's a real honor to be here. This is a poem called The Heritage of Love. I'm proud of my heritage, but I'm not talking about Judaism. I fell in love with a beautiful girl, so much in love that I decided to ask her to marry me. With all of her beauty and intelligence, her kindness and compassion, she was everything to me, everything but Jewish. Was I prepared to break the ancient chain of Jewish lineage? Was I just a California dreamer, even worse, a musician, falling for a shiksa? One evening I got together with my family and I told them that I wanted to ask Diana to marry me. I expected to hear questions like, will she be converting? Or wouldn't it be easier to be with a nice Jewish girl? My grandma Lil, the light of our family, asked the only question that matters. Do you love her? My heritage is love. Thank you.
Wow. Diana is here too. Kathy, please join us. Thanks for sharing that. Kathy Sanford.
That was so beautiful. I loved it. They came to these shining shores with dreams for their children. They came to these shining shores, freedom beckoning and distant. No strangers to hunger and hardship they came. From Ireland, Nicaragua, England, and France. They voyaged the oceans on destiny's hand. Intrepid explorers on ships and by chance. They came to these shining shores with Providence steering their way. They came to these shining shores. How I wish I could thank them today.
Where do you want to come up to do a freestyle? Want a freestyle for it? Okay. We're going to end with Kenya, please.
Thank you. decision to come to the U.S. To go or to not go, it was a tough decision. It was not about the ego. It was about a vision. To let the inner spirit grow free, like a horse in a moment of frenzy. To enjoy the oceans, the rivers, the trees, and to meet new friendly faces. A dream was my most precious possession, and all of the memories in my mind, dancing around in a beautiful collection, leaving so much behind, but also bringing so much with me. My essence, my soul, my smile, my desire to succeed in the land of the wild, in the land of the free. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. It's beautiful. A surprised voter. I don't think he realized he was doing this, but we all know voter, and he's traveled the world with Dulce all around the world. So maybe you want to, I don't know, share your thoughts about life on the road and the immigrant experience. Play first a little bit.
Yes, I can play something for Nelson Mandela, who grew up in South Africa but was a foreigner in his own land, or considered to be a foreigner in his own land, and spent 27 years in jail, and came out so tolerant, and so peaceful, and so loving, and became a leader for all his people, even the people that oppressed him. And I think that's the kind of example that we're looking for in the world at the moment. So I'll just play a couple of seconds. This describes Nelson Mandela's life. Starting with him growing up in his rural Transkei, where he was very close to nature and spent some time herding cattle. When I was writing the song, I was thinking about him sitting by his cattle, listening to the beautiful sounds of nature, which even then must have been touched with a tinge of sadness, showing what was to come in his life. In the next section, he moves to the city, and the peacefulness of nature makes space for the hustle bustle of city life and a train of events that would take control of his life. In this time, he also took leadership and thought from Mahatma Gandhi, and you'll hear that in the music as well. He followed Mahatma Gandhi's path of peaceful resistance. In the last section, he retires. Finally, it's time to be peaceful again and spend some time herding cattle. Peaceful again, spends time with his family. And the piece ends on an unfinished note, showing that even though his life is over, his memory will carry on and sustain us far into the future. I think I'll just do it like this. Let me see if you can hear this. I don't need a mic.
Oh, wait.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brad, for joining us. And it's a good place to end because this is a project of, we call it spiritual activism, but Deepak calls it sacred activism, invoking the wisdom of Dr. Martin Luther King. And don't get angry, just get busy and get creative. So we like to, I guess, end with a guided meditation. Deepak, if you can lead us.
Okay, so please sit comfortably. I was going to say uncross your legs, but you can cross them. Whatever is comfortable. If you're sitting on a chair with cross-legged, that's great. Keep your back relatively erect. And let's start by just observing the breath as it goes into your nostrils, and then observing it as it comes out. Knowing that in the deeper reality we are one breath, in the deeper reality we are members of one body. And now please bring your awareness to your heart and mentally ask the question, who am I? Who am I? Not looking for any answers, just asking the question, who am I? And allowing any sensation, image, feeling, a thought to come to you. Who am I? Keeping your awareness in your heart. Now ask the question, what do I want? What do I want? Allowing any sensation, image, feeling or thought to spontaneously come to you. What do I want? And now the question, What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And what kind of world, what kind of country do I see or want to see for my children and their children? Allowing any sensation, image, feeling or thought to come to you. And now please start to repeat your full name to yourself in the following way. I am, and then first name and last name. I am Kabir Sehgal. I am Mary Smith. So I am, first name and last name. And now allow your awareness to fill up with all your concerns, all your problems, all your struggles, all your stresses. Let them come into your awareness. So much is happening in your life right now, so let it fill up your awareness. And now please drop your last name and just repeat your first name. I am Deepak, I am Mary, I am Elizabeth. And now bring into your awareness more innocent and joyful memories, maybe even going back to when you were a child. Allow innocence to return to you in the form of joyful memories, going back even to your childhood. Now drop your first name as well and just repeat I am with no name, no form attached to it. Just repeat I am, allowing memories to fade out. I am. If you want, you can replace I am with aham, which is just the sound of existence. I exist. Aham. The mantra aham. 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 kindly let the mantra go and sit in awareness. Rest in existence. Rest in being. Being, awareness, existence. This is our home. God's language is silence. Everything else is poor translation. Rest in being. Being is home. You can now open your eyes and listen to the beautiful sound of children playing. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. You're welcome to stay, spend some time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.